Hi again. Well, I haven't gotten very far in our devotional reading. I didn't get past one more verse, as a matter of fact. I'm still in Psalm 37. So if you want to make sure you have a Bible nearby, it might be helpful today because I have a couple of other references that I would like to look at with you as well. But here we are in Psalm 37, yet again, verses 8 and 9. The theme of the psalm seems to be, don't fret yourself. We find that all the way back in the very first verse. Fret not yourself because of evildoers. Do not be envious of wrongdoers. That seems to be the theme, and David repeats himself, saying, don't fret yourself. Don't fret yourself. I've grown rather fond of that word, and I think I might start using it more often. Fret. Don't fret yourself. And then we saw that David said the way to keep from really stressing out is to commit your way to the Lord. Trust in the Lord. And then in verse 7, he said one of the best ways of not stressing out is to be still, be silent before the Lord, and wait patiently for him. Then we come to verses 8 and 9. Refrain from anger, forsake wrath, fret not yourself. It tends only to evil. For the evildoers shall be cut off, but those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. Now, David's telling us here what our attitude ought to be toward those who cause us to fret, make us want to fret. He tells us to refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Well, my friends, our country is still in upheaval. It seems that for the time being, the burning and the looting and the rioting has hit the pause button. But still there are mobs going around tearing down statues, defacing national monuments. Up in Seattle, there's a new country that seceded from the Union and has declared its autonomy. And I keep doing my job down here. I keep meeting with people on a daily basis. Every single day, I'm meeting with people. And I listen to them as they talk about their feeling of discomfort, their attitude about the unrest and the hatred and the violence that they're seeing on the television. Almost every single one of them, seriously, almost every single one of them has said something about having a problem with anger. They're struggling with anger with what they see going on around our country. And I think this is something that we need to talk about. And I'm amazed at the providence of God at bringing us to these verses in Psalm 37 at a time like this. What should we think about what we're seeing? What should we think about the people that we're seeing on the television and the things that they're doing? What would the attitude of Christ be toward those people? First, David says, refrain from anger. That's not easy to do. For us, anger is a feeling that seems to well up inside of us, and it kind of tends to take control of us. And that's why David says it just tends to more evil. We already know that our anger does not accomplish the righteousness of God. James states this very clearly in his letter, James 1, verses 19 and 20. Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. For the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. So clearly, anger's not going to do any good, and it's not going to help us either. In fact, David says that anger leads to fretting, and fretting leads to more evil. In several of his letters, the Apostle Paul includes anger in lists of things that he declares to be abhorrent to God. These are things Christians need to completely avoid. We need to set them aside. We need to take them off like unrighteous clothing. Remove them entirely from our lives. Let me give you a couple of references. First, Colossians 3:8. But now you must put them all away. Anger, wrath, malice, slander, and obscene talk from your mouth. And then again, Galatians chapter 5, verses 19 to 21. He says, now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissensions, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these. Anger, it's included right in there with these lists of sins that God hates, and he wants us to get rid of them and put them away. So, secondly, if we're supposed to restrain from anger, then what should be our attitude? I think we need to take a look at this and examine our own hearts. What is it that is causing this anger in the first place? Now, I ask people, and this is what they tell me. Well, they're destroying the things that I value. They're destroying things that I think are important and good. They're threatening law and order in our country. They're upsetting our society entirely. They're committing crimes. They're hurting good people, and they're destroying their businesses. So now we identify the root of anger. That's good. That's important. And then we must ask this question. Now, is this my own selfish anger? Is this anger that's welling up from inside of me? Or is this righteous anger? Is this anger that God is putting in me toward the unrighteousness and the wickedness that I'm seeing? Now, there is a place for righteous anger. Make no mistake about that. It's right for us to stand up for the things that God considers to be important. It's right for us to stand for the things he stands for and try and do something about those things. But ultimately, righteousness is God's territory. Ultimately, judgment is God's. At the end of the day, there's nothing that I can do about it in a righteous way. Then there's my anger. The anger that comes up from within me, selfish anger. It's a frustrating kind of anger because there's nothing that I can do about it. It makes me feel helpless. And that's where we finally struck on the key. Helpless. Helplessness. We're getting down to what the real problem is here. We feel like there's nothing that we can do. But here's good news. Christians are never helpless. My friends, Christians are never helpless because we have God and we have prayer and we have the privilege of bringing anything to God in prayer and laying it down before him. And I think this is actually the key that's going to help us solve this problem of struggling with anger. We just take these matters to the Lord and give them to him. We look at the people on TV, we watch what they're doing, and it triggers this anger inside of us. And we pray. We say, God, help me love them the same way that you love them. And I pray for them. God, be merciful to them. If Jesus could pray on the cross, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Certainly, we can pray for people that we're watching on a television and say, God, have mercy on them. Show them your light. So we pray for them. Our anger never accomplishes God's purposes. God always accomplishes his purposes. And we can be in touch with those things as we pray and stay in touch with our Father. Thank you so much for listening.